Well, not many people know that I am a graphic designer. I started graphic design almost fresh out of high school with thinking that my artistic tendencies could make me some money in the long run. I was quite naive on my part. I had no idea that, well, graphic design, not gonna lie, was a beautiful career, but at the same time, it's not like making money is not the best match. And nowadays with AI, well, it's even worse. But it turns out that I learned very hard lessons along the way, and one of the most important lessons that every single graphic designer learns is that it's even more important to know how to sell your design or your design expertise than making the design itself. As in, the design itself can be trash, can be anything. It doesn't matter. Selling your services is the single most important thing, and that might sound natural and logic for every other professional, but for me, it wasn't until very, very late. In fact, until I was no longer a professional graphic designer. I was not working on it actively. But it turns out that it helped me see many things in a very fun and very interesting light, such as this, which is not satire. This is a real video of the city of Austin proudly unveiling a 1.1 million rebrand. What kind of rebrand? A logo that costs $1 million, a design of $1 million. Let's watch this.
For the first time in Austin's history, we will have a logo to represent the city's services and unify us as one organization, One Austin. We will go from this to this. While this effort began before I arrived as city manager, it is a project I was glad to champion.
I mean, this is a thing. This is not the first time we could be talking about logos. In fact, I missed the whole train of the Cracker Barrel logo, which you might be very well aware of. I could make a video about this, maybe a summary of all that happened, but it was pretty much the same. It was a very expensive redesign of the image of a brand, the image of a company. In this case, it was a city. I was rebranding this from this logo. Okay, I didn't know that cities' logos were so important, to this that pretty much looks like a generic, I don't know, clinic logo. $1 million. $1 million. There's one case, by the way, that you should Google at some point, which is the Pepsi logo scandal. You absolutely need to see that story. There must be very good YouTube videos. Just Google Pepsi logo redesign. That's a very, very nice story. Very nice scam, which is the exact same thing. And why are we talking about graphic design? And why are we talking about image changes? Why are we talking about this? Not about this guy. It's about the change of the logos. This is important because this has a extremely important lesson about everything, about politics, about life, not only about graphic design and how to sell your services. You notice a pattern in this kind of companies and cities. You notice that they begin to focus on the appearances, the brand, the logo, the image. Let's do a refresh of the image, and when we have a new logo, all the problems of the city, all the problems of the company, everything that has gone wrong up to this point is going to solve immediately, baby, because that's what we need. And in fact, that is usually the last thing any company needs. Because any company, any person, any city needs to focus, first and foremost. Notice that I mentioned person, and I'm going to address that in a second. What they need to focus on is, well, customer service. Is the customer happy? Are customers happy when they enter your franchise or they enter your city? Are people in the city happy? Are they having a good time? Are they thriving? Are they, I don't know, happy of living in Austin or happy of visiting Cracker Barrel? That is the ultimate thing, and that's the trick. Making the customer happy is actually very, very hard work. Very hard work is an understatement. It should be your unique goal to make sure that your customers and your inhabitants are as happy as you can. But the issue is that you have to ask them what they want. You have to be mindful of all your supply chain, your products, your services, everything. A city, imagine that. And well, let's say that Austin doesn't have that much of a good reputation lately, because you remember that Joe Rogan, host of the most popular podcast in the world, he moved to Austin a while ago, and some of his podcaster friends follow suit. Let's go to Austin as well. We want to go with you. Let's say that it is great because of and they found out, okay, the city is not so great. In fact, it's not so different from Los Angeles, with the big difference that Los Angeles is way more fun. So you have the junkies, you have the homelessness, you have everything, you have all that is happening in Los Angeles without the fun of Los Angeles. So people are just going away from Austin for that reason. So it's not like, all right, the core problem here is not a logo. The core problem is how you make people proud of your city, happy with your city. And that brings us to a personal level. So many times we think, oh, maybe if people saw me that way, if people appreciated it this way, perceived me this way, I would feel better. Maybe if I change the way I look, maybe it is true that we have to, be dressed for the job that you want or the life that you want. That's why I try to be well dressed when I make these videos. But it really doesn't matter if you don't address the core, the inside of you, which is, what are you bringing to the table with your unique set of skills? Because you have a unique set of skills that can make a real change in other people's lives. That is a reality. Maybe you haven't found it. Maybe it's not one skill. Maybe it's a combination of 2 or 3 skills, like Scott Adams says. But the problem is that if you're focused on what other people are doing or what other people are looking for, or what you think is the outside perception of you, then you're going to go for just a logo redesign. You're going to go for just your image, your brand, how you are perceived by people. Instead, how can you help people? How can you do something for people? How can you solve problems for people, which is ultimately what we are here for. We are here to solve problems. We are here to lend a hand to others. And basically, that is what success is about. Remember the strangest secret from Earl Nightingale? Success is the progressive realization of a worthy ideal. You have heard that. Progressive realization of a worthy ideal. And usually a worthy ideal is helping others, and we will not be able to help others unless we know our true value. And that's when we go to the city of Austin, for example. What is the true value of the city of Austin? It's not a logo. Nobody cares about the logo, in fact. People care about how can they live better in the city. Is that simple. How can they enter a Cracker Barrel and feel at home and have a great time and eat great food? All of that is much harder than just paying $1 million for a logo redesign. In this case of the city of Austin, the logo was $1 million. In the case of Pepsi, it was like 20 years ago, was also $1 million. But that is easy. That is taking the easy route. You know what is not the easy route? You know what is the route that you should take? You should address the internal route. You have to face yourself. Take a look at yourself in the mirror and say that, okay, I have this weaknesses, but I have these strengths as well. There are opportunities and there are obstacles. What are we going to do about that? What are you going to do about that? There's so much that we can do. The fact that you're alive, breathing, you have energy inside yourself, it means that you can do great things, live a great life. But we, for way too long, we are focused on what? On the external appearances. Again, it's important to be well-groomed, but it's way more important to understand what is going on inside of us and realize that the same problems that we address inside of us, many people have the same problems. And maybe, just maybe, we can help them solve their problems. It sounds quite simple. It is not. It's simple in concept, but it takes work. A lot of work, and nobody wants to do the work. Sometimes I don't want to do the work. That is way too much. That is natural. We want the easy way. I don't want that. I just can we just change the logo? $1 million. That's easy. But we must go through the hard path, and that would be much more worth it. Let me know what you think about this in the comments. My name is Jesus Enrique Rosas. I'm the Battle Language Guy. Much love and bliss.